All right. This is a subject that you might know has been near and dear to my heart for a very long time. When I was sitting in with Jimmy when I was in LA, I asked him permission to ask Dennis Kucinich one question. And the one question I asked him was if he was elected, if he would uh, order an investigation of Nancy Pelosi or for her arrest for insider trading. He was not crazy about that idea, I will tell you, but I am. I have always thought that Nancy Pelosi should be in prison, along with a lot of other people, both Republicans and Democrats, who clearly are benefiting from insider trading. There's absolutely no other explanation for their stock performance, as we'll see. So Josh Hawley has just cleared the Pelosi Act out of committee. Here he is talking about it.
Have an opportunity here today to do something that the public has wanted us to do for decades, and that is to ban members of Congress from profiting on information that, frankly, only members of Congress have in the buying and selling of stock. 86% of Americans say that members of Congress should not be able to buy and sell shares of stock, individual stock, while they are members of this body, and they are absolutely correct. And the reason is, you can see it, there was just another ethics referral in the House last week. We've seen the former Speaker of the House make millions of dollars in profits. We've seen members of both parties, I'm sad to say, be investigated for their stock trades. And the reason for all of this is that, quite frankly, members of this body are privy to information that the normal person just is not. Now, is that insider trading? It is not under the laws. Sometimes people say, well, we already have insider trading laws. We don't need a stock ban. Well, the information that members of Congress are privy to is technically not covered by the insider trading laws, but nobody really believes that the information that we get isn't valuable. It is quite valuable, which is why back during COVID, you saw members of Congress of both parties engage in a flurry of stock trading right after they were getting COVID briefings. Were members of the public getting those briefings? They were not. Were members of the public privy to the kind of information that was being given to members of Congress? No, they were not. And so when you look at what members of Congress are privy to, what they are able to trade on, the access that they have, it's just qualitatively different than your average Joe or Jane, which is why we ought to put into place common sense guardrails that say, if you want to be a member of Congress, you can put you want to save, great. You can buy mutual funds, you can buy broadly diversified investment vehicles. You should not be able to buy and trade individual stock shares in which, frankly, we have an interest in the work that we do. We have information that no other people get, no other members of the public have. This bill would finally redress that.
Okay, so he's not saying you can't have a 401k if you're in Congress. You can't have a fund for your retirement, but you can't actively trade. Now, also to be clear, now Kucinich, when I asked him this question, didn't get into the minutia of this in that way. But yeah, he's right. This is part of the problem. Not surprisingly, Congress made themselves exempt from these laws, essentially. If you or I did what Nancy Pelosi does, we'd be in jail faster than Martha Stewart can glaze a ham. Okay. But if you're a member of Congress, these laws don't apply to you. They don't apply. So really, Kucinich was right. Like, you couldn't really lock up Nancy Pelosi for this. That's the problem. That's the problem that this act is attempting to address. So it did clear the Senate panel. A Senate committee voted to advance a bill that would ban stock trading by lawmakers, presidents, and vice presidents over objections from most Republicans, and with a carve-out for President Donald Trump. Senator Josh Hawley introduced the original bill barring members of Congress and their spouses from trading stocks. In conjunction with Senator Gary Peters of Michigan, the top Democrat on the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, Hawley offered an alternative to the panel that would ditch the contentious name and expand the prohibitions to the president and vice president, but only for future administrations. Listen, guys, this is the most corrupt president we've ever had. If you don't want this vetoed, we're going to have to not apply this to him. There's no way he's going to approve that. Several Republicans argued the legislation before the panel was flawed. Senator Ron Johnson said he did not see the need for new legislation given the existing rules around insider trading. He just addressed that doesn't apply. That's the problem. And he warned it would have unintended consequences. We might not be able to make $40 million a year on a $200,000 salary. That's a consequence. Senator Rick Scott, meanwhile, we're going to see some of that, accused Hawley of reneging on a promise to work with him to approve the bill. In an apparent attempt to sink the bill among Democrats, Committee Chair Rand Paul argued the legislation should apply to Trump, not just future presidents, and suggested his Democratic colleagues would be voting to protect the incumbent if they supported the revised bill. Paul later called it the exemption for Donald Trump's substitute. Now, I want to make it clear, I'm pretty sure the Crackerjack staff at Politico have no love of Rand Paul. I think their interpretation there is probably unfair, knowing Rand Paul. I think he probably really doesn't like the idea that there's a carve-out for Donald Trump and didn't want to vote for that. That's my theory. Democrats ultimately voted to alter the bill to exempt Trump, an apparent concession to appease Hawley and secure its passage. Senator Elisa Slotkin said she would have preferred not to have the exception for Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, but added she was willing to make the good work instead of waiting for the perfect. We all saw Vance and Trump come out against this publicly, but I think it's important that we at least make a start, she said. Now, they did ask Donald Trump about this. Now, this tweet, it's worth reading a little bit of this because this is true. Pelosi has outperformed Warren Buffett for the last 10 years. Her stock portfolio grew by 720%, Buffett's by 185%. Pelosi has outperformed the man who is usually acknowledged as the greatest investor of his generation by 4 times over the last 10 years. The best year Buffett ever had was around 36% gain. Pelosi last year had, I think, a 54% gain. So Trump was asked about this. This is what he had to say at first.
Conceptually, and, Nancy Pelosi became rich by having inside information. She made a fortune with her husband, and I think that's disgraceful. So in that sense, I'd like it, but I'd have to really see I study these things very carefully, and this just happened. So I'll take a look at it. But conceptually, I like it. And what I do think is Nancy Pelosi should be investigated because she has the highest return of anybody practically in the history of Wall Street, save a few. How did that happen? It happened by she knows exactly what's going to happen, what's going to be announced. She buys stock, and then the stock goes up after the announcement's made. And she ought to be investigated.
This is the thing, though. If you're going to investigate Nancy Pelosi on those grounds, you have to investigate most of Congress, as we will see. She's the queen of stonks. And if you analyze why she outperforms everybody else and continues to, she's not Speaker of the House anymore. I don't think it's that she's getting better information than the rest of these inside trading Congress people. She's married to an investor. She's married to a trader. So he's taking this information, in my opinion, and he's getting into these very exotic trades that the average congressperson wouldn't even know about. He's getting into call options. He's hedging. He's buying these very exotic kind of investments to maximize profit off of this information. I think that's why she's the queen of stonks, but she's certainly not the only one doing this. So she got asked about this by Jake Tapper.
Let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
Yeah, but I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail.
Yeah,
but because
that happens
of the
every day.
Confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that had been made over time. I'm not into it. My husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider. But the president has his own exposure, so he's always projecting. He's always projecting. And let's not give him any more time on that, please. We're going forward here, and I'm very proud of my family. And while he might make fun of us, while somebody inspired by him breaks into our home and hits my husband in a deadly fashion, hits my husband over the head, and he thinks that's a riot, I'd rather not go into some of my other complaints about him right now. Rather to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. That's what this is like her Epstein.
It's like her Epstein. Yeah, exactly. Insider, no, not me. I don't do it. No, I mean, I'm all for the bill, but because I don't do it. I mean, we make money, but my husband does it, not me. I'm all for it. Yeah, no, if you do it, you should go to jail. Not me.
Yeah, no, you see that all the time. People who do inside trading in Congress who go to jail. That happens every day.
Yeah.
The laws are working perfectly. Yeah. For Nancy Pelosi, and this is, we've long said this is how her racket works. She gives the information to her trader husband, and he does the trades based on that information. That's my husband, not me. Well, clearly your husband is doing these trades based on inside information. Last year, Pelosi outperformed the famous inverse Cramer. What's the inverse Cramer for the uninitiated? Jim Cramer sucks so bad. There's an ETF you can invest in that trades the opposite of his advice. Did 43% last year betting against Jim
does very well.
Picks.
But not as good as her.
Not as good as the Queen of Stonks. 54% last year. No insider trading here. Of course not. While hedge funds often prioritize consistent returns and risk management over sheer market performance, their 2024 results pale compared to Pelosi's tracker. They averaged a 10.7% return. 10.7. Only one outperformed her, 59.4, not by much. Outperformed all these professional money management firms. And if you look from 2014 to the present, 631% gain, while the market gained 180% in that time. So you have to believe that Nancy Pelosi is the Rain Man of stock picking, or you have to believe that she's trading. I can't say illegally. That's what this act is trying to correct. This is inside trading. It would be illegal. What she does would be illegal for anyone who's not in Congress. And when she says she's not trading on inside information, just absolutely absurd claim to make. Now, under a lot of pressure, she theoretically supports this. Very often when it becomes politically uncomfortable enough, people will claim to support things that they then help to kill through procedural maneuvers while claiming to support it. But this is what she said for a very long time when asked about closing this loophole for Congress people to do insider trading.
Members of Congress and their spouses be banned from trading individual stocks while serving in Congress?
No, I don't know to the second one. We have a responsibility to report in the stock, on the stock, but I'm not familiar with that 5-month review, but if people aren't reporting, they should be. Because this is a free market and we're a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that.
Oh boy, she's participating. All right. So the blue line on top there is Nancy Pelosi's stock performance between 2019 and the end of 2023. And the gray line below it is the performance of the market on the whole. I bet you can spot the difference. Over 50% gains in that time. Now, as I said, it's not just Nancy Pelosi. The green line here is Congress. Congress did over 20% in 12 months. Some of the Congress people involved you might recognize. So it's not just Nancy Pelosi. She's at the top. That's why they call her the Queen of Stonks, 24.1 million. Next biggest inside trader, and I think we can safely say that, Mitt Romney. 17.4. And then the next one's a Democrat, Mark Warner, 11.4. Rick Scott, though, he's no slouch. 8 million. Mitch McConnell, who doesn't even seem to know where he is. This is how easy it is if you're in Congress to make a fortune in the stock market. $6 million. So as you can see from the mix of red and blue here, this is a bipartisan sport. This is certainly not specific to Pelosi. She's just the most successful at it again, I think, because she's married to a big trader and investor. So among those who voted against it, unsurprisingly, against the Pelosi Act, is Rick Scott. This is what Rick Scott had to say. God damn it, it's un-American. It's un-American.
I don't own operating businesses, but somehow it's suspect because I made money. I don't know how many people in the audience, how many of you don't want to make money? Anybody want to be poor?
Anybody want to be
don't.
poor? I don't want to be poor.
Right? So this idea that we're going to attack people because they make money is wrong.
What do you make, 170 grand a year?
Absolutely wrong.
We should.
Well, when people rob banks, they're doing that to make money.
Hey,
we stop them from robbing the bank?
You want me to be poor?
You want them to be poor? And a lot of those people, they start out poor. That's what in America we used to call true grit. Now we call it bank robbing.
Yeah, exactly.
We cherish all of our different backgrounds. Every one of us has a different background. I've got a business background. But what I was just accused of is making money, and somehow I can't be fair and do things the right way. So I think it's disgusting what is going on here. So, but I agree with I completely agree with you. We've got to stop people from trading stocks. But this is way different. This is an attack against the president, attack against the vice president. That's what this is. So I think it's wrong.
Wow. And it's got a carve out for Trump at JD Vance.
Yeah, it's not an attack on the president.
Yeah, no, that is just amazing. You're criminalizing making money. Yeah. So how did you outperform the market last year? You were not inside trading, Rick Scott. Right. How did you do that? By orders of magnitude, outperform the market. A market that's doing very well, by the way, and you did much better than that even. So somebody must have told Donald Trump that this would affect his rich criminal friends or something. Because a few hours after making that statement about how much he liked the idea of the bill, all of a sudden he blindsides Josh Hawley with this. Why would one Republican Senator, Josh Hawley, from the great state of Missouri, join with all of the Democrats to block a review sponsored by Senator Rick Scott and with the support of almost all other Republicans of Nancy Pelosi's stock trading over the last 25 years? The information was very inappropriately released just minutes before the vote, very much like sabotage. The Democrats, because of our tremendous achievements and success, have been trying to target me for a long period of time, and they're using Josh Hawley, who I got elected twice, as a pawn to help them. I wonder why Hawley would pass a bill that Nancy Pelosi is in absolute love with. He is playing right into the dirty hands of the Democrats. It's a great bill for her and her husband, but so bad for our country. Are you suggesting he's not her husband?
Yeah. Her so-called husband.
I understand they got married to one of those Elvis chapels. I don't even know if that's legal. I don't think real Republicans want to see their president, who has had unprecedented success, targeted because of the whims of a second-tier senator named Josh Hawley. So I don't know, man. He got a call from some of his rich friends or something telling him ixnay on the anti-corruption nay. And why would Donald Trump's friends not want him to support a bill like this? Well, you might remember after Victory Day or Liberation Day or Independence Day, whatever the hell they called it, when he announced his batshit tariff list. About a week after that, he completely shifts gears, and people made a lot of money off of that stock swing, including Charles Schwab, whose company you've probably heard of. Here Trump is, he's very excited about how much money they made on his reversal.
This is Charles Schwab. It's not just a company, it's actually an individual. And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million. That's not bad. He's in financials. I've always been following.
He's very happy about how much money these guys made, probably from inside information about the fact that Trump was suddenly going to reverse himself. There were a lot of buying activity ahead of that announcement. And hey, you might remember the crypto dinner with the Walmart steaks. Trump gave a gold watch to Chinese foreign national Justin Sun, who up until he invested $75 million into Trump's crypto company, the SEC was investigating for fraud. After then pouring $23 million into Trump's meme coin, Sun got VIP access to Trump's dinner last night, where he was gifted the watch. Imagine if Biden did this. Yes, imagine indeed. And, not content to make money off the meme coin, Trump is selling a repackaged $172 Chinese phone for $500, and it's not even made in the USA. So, the idea of Donald Trump demanding that Nancy Pelosi be investigated for corruption, that's really the whoriest whore in the whorehouse, demanding that one of his fellow whores get investigated for overcharging the customers. So Hawley was asked about this, about Donald Trump's sudden and unexpected attack on him. This is what he had to say.
With the president earlier this evening, and he reiterated to me he wants to see a ban on stock trading by people like Nancy Pelosi and members of Congress, which is what we passed today. I think it is absolutely vital we put a stop to this. Pelosi shouldn't just be investigated. She should be prosecuted. And we need to make what she is doing and other members of Congress is doing illegal. I mean, you shouldn't be able to go up to Congress and get rich by trading on information that only you have and not members of the public. Right now, lots of members of Congress are getting by with it. We need to make the whole thing illegal.
So when you spoke to the president, did he explain why he called you second tier?
Well, I think that the president, a number of people who are opposed to banning stock trading had said to the president that he would be covered by the bill. He'd have to sell Mar-a-Lago and sell assets. Not the case at all. The president and the vice president, all their assets are totally exempted. And here's the point. This is what we talked about. The point of this bill is to ban members of Congress from trading on the information that only they have. I've supported this bill for years, Jesse. I think we call it the Pelosi Act. It is named for her because she is the poster child of this kind of behavior. It ought to be illegal and it ought to be prosecutable.
Okay, so you have to pause for a second, and it's really the frog in the pot of boiling water that we accept the level of corruption that we have. The idea that it's being presented as normal and reasonable, oh no, he was only angry because he thought it would apply to him. Now we're cool. He found out it's not going to apply to him. We're cool. That you're muted.
Oh, no, sorry. No, just nodding along, yes.
I thought you were saying something. The fact that we would even accept a proposition like that, just really, we have been conditioned as a population to just accept you're going to have this level of corruption. And I'm not trying to give aid and comfort to Democrats who want to put this all on Trump. I have been, as I said at the top of the segment, I have been screaming about how Nancy Pelosi should be imprisoned for insider trading pretty much for as long as we've had this show. But don't pretend it doesn't apply to Rick Scott. Don't pretend it doesn't apply to Donald Trump. It applies to all of these people. So, hey, I'm not a big fan of Mr. Hawley, who's talking about how terrible the Medicaid cuts in the big, beautiful bill are going to be for his district, who then goes and votes for it. He could be absolutely, clownish that way and very cowardly in standing up for what he claims to believe in. But hey, man, the Frederick Douglass saying Jimmy is fond of, right? I'll partner with anyone to do good. This is a good thing. I understand politically to get Donald Trump to go along with it and some others in his caucus. He wants to focus on the Pelosi element of it, but it's far from just a Pelosi problem. She's just the most successful at this. The idea that you have to exempt Trump and Vance to pass it is really tells you how far this nation has fallen from any pretense that we have a functioning government. If that's what they got to do to pass it, yeah, okay. I mean, I don't think they're wrong to do it. Obviously, Donald Trump is so corrupt he would veto it if he didn't put in that provision. If I had to bet, he's going to veto it anyway on behalf of the criminals that he actually works for. But we shall see.
Yeah, we'll see. It was very confusing because, when he was talking about Pelosi there, about her being investigated, I guess he was just talking about a more targeted investigation of her without, any sweeping legislation that could have implications for him. And now, if not him, people around him, because it was very weird to see him kind of lash out at Hawley. I was like, did I miss something? Like, what, you sounded like you were for this in that last soundbite, and then he goes at Hawley yesterday afternoon. I'm like, well, wait a minute, is there something else to this? But no, there's nothing else to this legislatively because he's protected, unless he didn't know he was protected, but he must have known that. Maybe he got some calls from people around him.
Well, Hawley was saying he thought that it was going to apply to him, which would make sense with this moron. What do you mean? He's talking about me too? Give me that phone.
Yeah.
That could be what happened. Obviously, if he wanted to get all those Democrat votes, he could not include an amendment to this bill that Pelosi was going to get investigated for inside trading. And again, hey, as much as I have been calling for that for years, I do think it would be a miscarriage of justice if you did that to her and you didn't do it to all these people. If you're going to do it to Pelosi, you do it to Rick Scott, you do it to Mitt Romney, you do it to everybody.
Right. Well, that's the efficacy and the morality, I would say, of making a law banning it, because otherwise, I mean, you talk about a football, right? I mean, like, you could do this to whoever you want at any time for whatever reason.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So it's I think more useful to establish a sort of uniform standard against that, which they claim they have. We talked to when we interviewed, I remember Shahid Buttar a few years back. He's the guy who ran against Pelosi. I believe he tried to primary her twice. And you asked him, you said, should she be in jail for insider trading? He's like, yeah, well, she should be, but technically she can't be because what they do is not considered illegal. They have carve-outs for themselves, right? And so, you would certainly have to you would certainly have to fix that on a more macro level, which I think Trump didn't understand at first. That was in the works. He thought, we'll go after Pelosi.
It's the Pelosi Act, so
it's the jail
it's
the
only
Democrat
going
Act.
after her.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's the jail the Democrats Act. That's right.
Please clap.